What's up, everybody? Welcome to this video. I've got Elliot Bonnet from the DC Breeze, the French Phenom, helping me out here. We're going to go through 4 different little cutting drills. First, we're going to talk a little bit about cutting mechanics. So if you haven't already, check out the videos that Elliot just did on the Z cut and the jab cut. But in that, he talked about cutting mechanics and how we want to make sure that we're loading up the inside leg. So Elliot, do you want to show him kind of in slow-mo here? So you can see when he's cutting, we're really loading up that inside leg, right? Then we've got a long outside leg here. We've got a nice horizontal angle so we can make sure that we're getting those braking forces. When we are running, when we're cutting, right, it's a lot of horizontal movement. So if we want to stop horizontally, we've got to make sure that we have that horizontal leg coming out. So put really simply, inside leg is the one that we are loading up. That's the one that we're loading and we are going to push off of, but that outside leg is the one that's just braking. So we don't want to load onto it, right? We want to make sure that that's being just the braking, and then we can push off of that inside leg. So kind of 4 different exercises that we can do to kind of progress and work on this position. The very first one, let's start down in that kneeling position here. So that low position, those horizontal positions that I just mentioned, when we want to get horizontal, we've got to make sure we're getting low. Now, when we're cutting, that's very fast, right? There's a lot of force going on there. You got to be relatively strong. So if your brain or if your body's weak, right? If your brain knows, hey, we aren't strong down there, that's a injury risk, or that's just too fast for us. Sometimes the brain isn't going to be willing to go into those low positions. So it's not a matter of you're just not good at going low. Sometimes your brain is just trying to protect you. What we can teach the brain is if we already start in a low position, right, and we can produce a lot of force from that low position, we can kind of reverse engineer it and we can develop that strength by already starting that low position. So first thing Elliot's going to do is he's going to push off of that outside leg, boom, and then he's going to cut. So you can see we're starting that super low position and we're working on being able to develop a lot of force and contract very fast from that low position. So that's kind of our level 1. It's always important to remember that the outside leg is the one that's pushing. So in this case, he's got his left foot out in front and he's running to his right. Level 2 now, you can see Elliot's going to strike the ground very fast and he's going to push. So this is that same idea. We're contracting, we're producing a lot of force from a low position, but we're getting a fast ground contact. A lot of times you'll see in cutting, right, we're not spending a whole lot of time on the ground. We have to attack the ground really fast and be able to push off of it. This is just a way where we can introduce that in a micro sense. Level 3, now we're going to be down in that same position. Now Elliot's not going to run to his right, he's going to run to his left. So his back foot's going to swing around really fast and he's going to come out and he's going to sprint in the other direction. Let's go back into that position. If you're able, when you swing your right leg around, try to like pause and hold for a second. So you can see he swings around and boom, now you can see he's in that very similar cutting position. So his left leg here is the one that's loaded and the one that he's pushing off of. And the right leg is just acting as a brake. And then he accelerates and pushes out of there. If you imagine like a track sprinter coming out of the blocks, or if you just imagine if I told you, hey, you're about to run 40-yard dash, what's the position that you would get into? It's that very common kind of sprint type position, right? That front leg is the one that's loaded up, that back leg is kind of long, right? This is a very similar position. We get into this position when we cut, right? Like I was saying, inside leg loaded, outside leg is the long one, and we end up in this drill also getting in a similar position, right? It's just in a lateral vector, right? It's just moving side to side. That inside leg is the one that's loaded, the outside leg is the one that comes around. I'll show them one more time. Outside leg is the one that comes around, blocks, right? And we're getting into a very common sprinting position. So that's level 3. While we're here, also want to talk about the fact that we should make sure that we're doing both sides too, right? We're just demonstrating the one side, right? Just for the purposes of this, just to make sure that Elliot's got a game tonight. We don't want to do too much. But make sure you're also doing both sides, right? Even if you primarily cut off of your right, you want to make sure that you're also training your left, right? You don't want to be so dominant on one leg that we then get those imbalances and those asymmetries and stuff like that. Now, level 4, this is where we really start to tie together. So we've, up until now, we've had him starting in that low position and then starting low and then coming out. Now we want to tie it together where we're able to get low and then push out. So what Elliot's going to do is he's going to start in a nice athletic stance. He's going to go off to the side and then come out as far as he can. You can see when we get into that crossover position, right, we're landing in that cutting position. So again, inside leg is the one that's loaded up. This outside leg is just blocking me, right? Because what did Elliot do? What do we do when we cross over, right? Everything is horizontal, right? Everything is pushing me this way. So if I'm going horizontally and I want to stop myself from going horizontally, I have to have some sort of horizontal break. So that's what that outside leg is. Let's show them one more time, please. You can just do a little baby one, but that outside leg is the one that breaks. Inside leg is the one that crosses over. Again, make sure you check out to the Z cut and the jab cut that Elliot did. One point that he brought up that I thought was really good is that the outside leg, when it crosses over, right, it doesn't need to be over dramatic, right? Like you want it very close to the ground, right? The quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line. So if you're doing this huge kind of hurdle action here, you're wasting a ton of time, right? We want it to be very, very quick. And then the way that you can kind of start to progress this even more and even more is you can start with a small distance, right? So I could set it up so maybe this quote unquote cone is like a yard away from Elliot, and I can say, okay, you got to jump over the cone, right? And then over time, I could progress this to now like, okay, now I've got this 2 yards, 3 yards away, and he's really got to jump to get over, right? And with that, right, the farther he has to jump, obviously, the more horizontal force is going into it, but then the steeper kind of shin angles he's getting into, right? He's having to get into these very, very low tight positions to be able to push back out of. And like we were kind of talking about earlier, is that specific to ultimate? I don't know, right? It's kind of iffy, right? But it's the same idea as like if I had somebody go and squat, right? We can all agree that squatting is good for leg strength. It's good for lower body strength, right? If you were squatting, nobody would go up to you and say, hey, we don't do that in ultimates, right? Don't squat. Like we know it's for that general quality of strength. And I think it's kind of the same idea here, right? Would you cut specifically like that? I don't know. There might be times, right? There might be more optimal ways to cut. But what this is training is that general quality of being able to break in a horizontal vector and be able to push out from a very low position. That's something that we know is universal in all cuts. So yeah, that is everything. Once again, make sure you check out some more specific cuts from Elliot on the Z cut and the jab cut. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments.